So, okay. So in this area here, you see the insular lobe, okay? And then this portion here is the internal capsule, the white fibers that are going in this direction, okay? And then here you have the lateral ventricle, okay? The right and the left, anterior horn of the lateral ventricle, posterior horn of the lateral ventricle, inferior horn of the lateral ventricle. So it's like the letter C going in there like that, okay? And in between the two anterior horns of the lateral ventricles is going to be separated by this membrane here, which is the septum pellucidum. Septum pellucidum just inferiorly of the corpus callosum, which is this structure here. The corpus callosum connects the right hemisphere with the left hemisphere. Okay? So then, when we remove the corpus callosum and the septum pellucidum, then right inferiorly to that is going to be the fornix, which is white matter of the limbic system. And it continues with the hippocampus down here. Okay. We remove then that portion there. Okay. Now we're going to start removing, working from the lateral structures going medially. We're going to remove the insular cortex of the insula lobe. And now we have here these radiations here all belongs to the white matter that we know as internal capsule. This structure is one part of the basal nuclei or corpus striatum. Okay? This is, in fact, it is the lentiform nucleus. The lentiform nucleus is subdivided into two nucleus, which is the globus pallidus and the putamen. The lateral nucleus is the putamen, the medial nucleus is the globus pallidus. You can see this is dark red and this is bright red. And you can see here a line where they are the artist of this model is trying to separate the two. Then from here, we remove what is going to be the internal capsule, and on the other side of the internal capsule, you're going to have the other basal nucleus, which is the caudate nucleus. This section here, in like a C, okay, that is the caudate nucleus. So the internal capsule goes in between those nucleus. Okay? It ends at the amygdaloid body, which is part of the limbic system as well. When we have removed all these parts here, then we have this area that abuts, kind of a bulgy, and that is the thalamus. That is the thalamus. Notice how the lateral ventricle is still around all that part. Okay. Looking from the posterior view, okay, we're going to have here the pineal gland. So the pineal gland is in the epithalamus, so that area is going to be part of the diencephalon. Just inferiorly, we're going to have this bulgy area, these four areas here, which is the corpora quadragemina, the two superior colliculi, the two inferior colliculi. Therefore, all this section here is the mesencephalon. Okay. We also see here the emergence of the cranial nerve 4 drop there. Okay. Over here, we see this area here is going to be part of the pons, the upper half. This is the foreventricle. The upper part of the foreventricle, below, anteriorly to that, is the pons. The lower half of the foreventricle, anteriorly to that, is the medulla oblongata. On the anterior view, we have the optic cranial nerve 2, okay, with the optic chiasma. Right right posteriorly to the optic chiasma, it is the optic chiasma, it is this stalk. This stalk basically connects the hypothalamus, that is up there, with the pituitary, which is missing here. Okay. Here you have the mammillary bodies. The mammillary bodies are part of the limbic system as well. Here you have the cerebral pedunculus, okay, which is part of the mesencephalon. Here you have cranial nerve 3. Notice cranial nerve 3 exits medially to the cerebral pedunculus, whereas cranial nerve 4 is coming from the back, from the dorsal area. Here is the pons, cranial nerve 5, and then 6 and 7, and these two tiny ones are 8, and then this little one here is 9. This over here is 10, all this is 11, and this is 12. 12 is between the pyramids and the olive in the medulla oblongata. Alright, then, removing this portion here, Okay, we have here the lateral ventricle, the third ventricle, and the fourth ventricle. The lateral ventricle and the fourth ventricle are connected each other by the foramen of Monro, which is this, or the interventricular foramen. And the third ventricle with the fourth ventricle are connected by the cerebral aqueduct. Okay. Notice this little hole in the third ventricle. Through that hole, there is a structure that is connecting the right thalamus with the left thalamus, and that is the interthalamic adhesion. When we remove all these ventricles, then we see the space that was occupied by the third ventricle, the space that was occupied by cerebral aqueduct, and the space that was occupied by the fourth ventricle. Here is the interthalamic adhesion. Okay. In addition to this, you can see here the posterior commissure, and the anterior commissure, posterior and the anterior commissure. And on the other side, you can see more clearer the caudate nucleus, now here in red. It's in C shape. And if we remove this, now you can see the relation between the caudate nucleus and the lentiform nucleus. The caudate nucleus and the lentiform nucleus. This will be the globus pallidus, and this back here is the epithelium. Okay? How's that? Okay. This one is pretty obvious, right? It's the same